2 years ago, I had $812 in my savings account. I earned $63,000 a year. I had been making over $50,000 for 6 straight years, and I had almost nothing to show for it. Every month I was buying things I didn't need, replacing things that were perfectly fine, and opening credit card statements that made my stomach drop. That same week, I stumbled onto an article about a century-old Japanese budgeting method. What stopped me wasn't the system itself. It was one detail. That ordinary Japanese families had been quietly building wealth across generations, using principles so simple they almost seemed insulting compared to the complicated financial advice I'd been consuming for years. No side hustles, no aggressive income strategies, just a fundamentally different philosophy underneath every spending decision. Here's what struck me most. In America, wealth is something you display. New car, new house, new wardrobe. All celebrated, all posted, all performed. In Japan, wealth is something you protect. Spending restraint isn't a sacrifice, it's a deeply held value. There's even a word for it, setsumashi, meaning modestly reserved. The quieter you live, the more respected you are. In America, the quieter you live, the more people assume you're struggling. I spent the next 12 months applying these principles one at a time. Same job, same salary, same apartment, just a completely different operating system. In 1 year, I went from $812 to over $19,000 saved. Here are the 10 habits that made that happen, and every single one of them applies to your financial life right now regardless of what you earn. The first is Kakeibo, the handwritten household ledger, created in 1904 by Japan's first female journalist at a time when women had almost no financial autonomy. The system is brutally simple. At the start of each month, write 4 things by hand. Income coming in, fixed expenses going out, how much you want to save, and how much you have left to spend. Every single day, record what you spent and sort each purchase into one of 4 categories: needs, wants, culture, which includes books and education and experiences, and unexpected expenses. At month's end, ask yourself 3 questions without judgment. Did I hit my savings goal? What spending brought me real value? What would I do differently next month? That's the entire system. And the key word is right. When you tap a card, your brain barely registers the transaction. When you sit down at night and write, food delivery, $42, want, your hand is telling your brain something no app ever could. That was a choice, not a necessity. Practitioners report reducing unnecessary spending by up to 35%. My first month, I cut about 22%, which on my salary translated to over $1,100 saved from a notebook that cost $3. The second habit is mottainai, which has no direct English translation. It describes the deep emotional discomfort that arises when something useful is wasted. Food, money, time, fabric, an object that still has life in it. In Japanese culture, waste isn't just inefficient. It carries a moral weight. American households throw away roughly 30% of the food they purchase, around $2,100 per household per year, according to the USDA. I tracked my own food waste for 1 week by photographing everything I threw out of my fridge and pantry, and the amount genuinely shocked me. I was discarding about $40 worth of food every single week without thinking twice. Once I started planning meals around what I already owned, freezing leftovers the same day, instead of hoping I'd eat them tomorrow, and buying smaller quantities more frequently, my grocery spending dropped nearly 30%, not by eating less, but purely by wasting less. Mottainai extends far beyond food. It changes how you relate to everything you own. You repair instead of replace. You use something completely before reaching for the upgrade. The phone with the small crack still works, so does the couch. The third habit is hara hachibu, the Okinawan principle of stopping when you feel about 80% satisfied rather than eating until you're completely full. Okinawa has one of the highest concentrations of people living past 100 anywhere in the world, and this practice is considered one of the reasons why. Translated directly into personal finance, it means living on 80% of your income and treating the remaining 20% as untouchable. The U.S. personal savings rate sat around 4% in early 2026. Japan's cultural default through habits like this one targets 20%. On a $60,000 salary, that 16-point gap over 30 years at average market returns is the difference between roughly $300,000 and $1.5 million. Same income, same city, same life, just a different ceiling. The 20% you don't spend isn't deprivation. It's margin, and margin is where financial resilience actually lives. The fourth habit is Kaizen, the philosophy of continuous small improvement. Most financial overhauls fail because they're too dramatic. Your brain perceives big changes as threats, and eventually willpower loses that fight. Kaizen flies completely under that radar. This month, you reduce dining out by 10%, not 50, just 10. Next month, you raise your retirement contribution by 1%. The month after, you cancel one subscription. Then you negotiate one bill. Each change is so small it requires almost no willpower. But 12 months of consistent Kaizen produces a completely transformed financial life, and you barely felt the transition happen. The fifth habit is Ikigai, your reason for being applied to money. Ikigai loosely translates to reason for living, and when you apply it to your finances, it answers the question that no budgeting app ever asks: what is this money actually for? When you define a clear and specific purpose, being present for your family without financial stress, retiring before 60, buying back your time, every single spending decision becomes a vote for or against that life. Impulse purchases don't just feel expensive once you have that clarity. They feel completely irrelevant. Purpose does what willpower never could. The sixth habit is wabi-sabi, finding genuine beauty in things that are imperfect, worn, and incomplete. A scratched dining table that has hosted hundreds of family meals. A sweater with a small mend that reminds you how long you've loved it. In Japan, imperfection carries history and meaning. In America, imperfection is almost always a reason to replace. Americans spend roughly $9,500 per year on the categories most driven by aesthetic dissatisfaction: apparel, home furnishings, and consumer electronics. If wabi-sabi shifted even 25% of that spending by helping you keep things longer and appreciate what you already own, that's over $2,300 redirected every year. Invested over 25 years, that single mindset shift builds roughly $180,000. The seventh habit is Osoji, the annual financial deep clean. In Japan, families perform a thorough end-of-year reset, clearing out the physical home and releasing what no longer serves them. Applied to finances, this becomes a once-a-year audit of your entire money life. Every subscription, every recurring charge, every insurance policy, every investment allocation, every autopay. My first financial Osoji uncovered $318 per month in charges I had completely forgotten about. That was nearly $3,800 per year silently draining from my account. Put it in your calendar, do it every December or January, and treat it as a non-negotiable annual ritual. The eighth habit is chokin, which means save first and spend what remains. The moment your paycheck arrives, a fixed percentage leaves automatically into savings or investments before you ever touch it. You spend whatever is left. Most people do the exact opposite. Spend throughout the month and save whatever remains at the end. There's never anything remaining because spending naturally expands to fill available income. Chokin breaks that pattern structurally. Automate the transfer the day after payday. Your spending life will adjust to the remainder within a couple of months because the human brain is remarkably adaptable when the option to overspend simply doesn't exist. The ninth habit is Shinrin-yoku, which means forest bathing, and the broader principle it represents is building your leisure and social life around activities that are completely free. Walking, cooking at home with people you love, reading, parks, gardening. The average American household spends around $3,000 per year on entertainment. When I rebuilt my weekends around free activities, that number dropped over 60% in 3 months, and the quality of my time genuinely improved because I stopped treating spending as a prerequisite for enjoyment. The 10th and final habit is Hansei, honest and sincere self-reflection. Not guilt, not self-punishment, just a clear-eyed monthly look at what happened with your money and what you want to adjust. Did I hit my savings goal? What spending brought me real value? What would I do differently? This 10-minute monthly practice is the habit that makes every other habit on this list compound over time. Without it, they stay flat. With it, they build on each other, month after month, each one slightly sharper than the last. The truth is, I never increased my income to build that $19,000. I changed the philosophy underneath my spending, and here at Cole Invest, that is exactly the kind of thinking we believe transforms financial lives. You probably already earn enough. You just need a $3 notebook, 10 minutes a day, and the willingness to finally pay attention to where your money is actually going. That is where it starts. That is where it always starts.